If you're already here, just take a deep breath and surrender your thoughts and your emotions. And as you relax your thoughts and your emotions, as you surrender them to life, to wherever they came from, basically, you'll notice the tension begins to fade, disappear, or even if the tension doesn't fade or disappear, there is an interruption in the thought stream. And in that interruption, in that window, in that moment of openness, it is as if you have punctured a hole and a layer of clouds, and you can glimpse, you can sense, you can feel, you can intuit, you can recognize the wide open sky, the nature of what you are beyond the thinking mind. Again, this is accessible to every living human being. Anyone who can recognize that they're hearing my voice right now, whether or not they speak English, whether or not they're focused or tired, whether or not they understand what I say conceptually or not, there's something in you recognizing that I am speaking, that you are hearing. So rest your attention on attention itself. And if you can only maintain this for a second, that's just fine. Start with that second, and then you simply repeat that second. That second where you interrupt the thought stream and you recognize attention itself. The fact that you're conscious, the fact that you exist. And this is like the sky recognizing itself instead of being so focused on the objects, which are the clouds in this analogy. And the nature of sky is always there. It's always stable. It's always reliable. It's always permeating all the clouds. No cloud would exist, would appear without the fabric, the nature, the basis of sky. So too, none of your thoughts, emotions, or even physical experiences, what you call physical experiences, which is nothing but sensations and perceptions and colors and words. But you call it physical experience. It's really just experience. You would not have that experience, was it not? For this sky-like awareness, that which knows your every experience, it is that which is right now smiling at you from within. You have to only turn your attention away from the objects and descriptions of this world and turn it around inward onto attention itself, onto consciousness itself, onto I am itself. And every time you do that, it's like a brief moment of homecoming, of coming back to your essence, to your basis, to your sky-like, space-like sense of I exist. And no matter what you've done that day, no matter what you've experienced that day, no matter the struggle or the joy, the challenge, or the flow, every time you come back to that moment, which is here and now, hearing my voice, recognizing your existence, you become more and more aware of the fact that nothing has entered into that space. Nothing has touched that space. Nothing has touched the sky, even if a hurricane has passed through it. Cannot really be said that the space of the sky itself is affected. It's only the contents of the space of sky that have been affected. Just like when you draw your name in the sky, or perhaps more tangibly, water. It leaves no trace. It's automatically restored. And in the case of awareness, it's never even touched or affected. And you can come home to this center. This can become your abode of peace and bliss. And every time you return to it and becomes more aware of itself, it awakens through your vehicle, through your body-mind, the experience of being who you are. You become a reflective mirror for that, what ultimately equals God consciousness, to recognize itself through your portion of the mirror of creation, simply by turning your attention back onto attention itself. Instead of knowing objects, you're knowing the knower. You're knowing the fact that you're knowing. When you know the knower, you're beginning to unravel yourself, to uncover, to rediscover, to remember your original freedom, your intrinsic eternalness, your primordial wisdom, your oneness with all that is, with the substratum, the essence of all that is. This is possible for any living human being. So thank you for being here once again. This was a little guided meditation to introduce the session, and to recapture some of the content that we have been going through in the last 2 sessions. Again, I recommend you watch these. You watch number 1. You watch number 2. In fact, I recommend you watch them a couple of times, because there's something that happens when you listen to content like this for a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, but especially the difference between listening once or listening twice is significant. Same with any material. But so it goes for this material as well. So I recommend you watch the sessions a couple of times, and they'll just be up online, so you can watch them as often as you like. If you haven't watched the first and second session, no worries, you can just continue to watch this session. Some of it may be slightly over your head because today, if not today, then the next session. But we're going to go a little bit deeper into the science of self-realization, into the art of enlightenment, if you will. Quote-unquote layers through which your consciousness will penetrate as you deepen your attention on attention. The knowing of the knower, awareness of awareness, turning that attention within to the center of your being. It gains sort of a penetrative power, the power to penetrate or puncture through false assumptive layers of thought. I'm going to do my best to explain all this in as simple a way as possible, step by step, so that anyone, regardless of their degree of familiarity with this material, can follow along and can begin to glimpse and directly experience some of these layers and stages that I'm speaking of. But for most of you, it will take a few replays of the session, a few weeks of meditating and trying it out and experimenting. But that is the fun of it. The fun of it is I'm laying the map out for you here. Through your direct experience, can begin to identify those layers of the onion, those penetrative stages, if you will. Now, it's a bit of a teaser because we're not yet 100% sure if I'm going to get to that in this session. But we'll see. First, what I want to discuss with you guys is the significance of significance, or the insignificance of significance. And this seems to be a bit of a different topic, because we're not talking directly about the art of enlightenment. We're not talking directly about meditation. We're not talking directly about God consciousness or awareness. But one of the main distractions from your natural condition of the naturally enlightened state of your consciousness, as it already is, in its restful condition, in its wide-open condition, in its essential condition, without the layers, pasted onto it without projection, it is a naturally free nature, and it is free. The direct experience of it is that of freedom, and it comes with deeper and deeper joy, bliss, peace, and intelligence. So again, just take that sort of on faith for now and try it out for yourself to make it experiential, which is what this is all about. You start out taking it on faith that, oh, maybe this is possible. Let me try it out. You give it a sincere effort, and then you begin to penetrate, deeper into, clearer into, brighter into, the knower knowing the knower. And as you do that, the effects that are described by some of the teachers, including myself, will begin to naturally emerge. You don't have to do anything for them. You don't have to do anything for bliss. You don't have to do anything for peace. You don't have to do anything for love. You don't have to do anything for clarity. You don't have to do anything for flow state. You don't have to do anything for anything. Well, you have to do some things for some things, but when it comes to these qualities, they are naturally naturally present, in the basis of what you are, the true basis of that sky-like awareness, or consciousness, or existence. And again, the last 2 sessions, the first 2 sessions of this sort of course, gave you access to that, gave you experiential tools that you would then apply, and you would gain the benefits. Okay, so today, let us explore the topic of meaning, because meaning distorts our perception, and veils this naturally present cloaks or clouds or clothes as naturally present vibrant, pristine, penetrative, all-pervasive, nature of what we are, Buddha nature, enlightenment nature, consciousness, pure consciousness, God, our divinity, call it as you will, source awareness, Brahman. And again, I just want you guys to understand, to get a sense of how free this really is. And this part is kind of what you have to take on faith because you most likely haven't experienced the immense freedom, the complete freedom, and what that's even like. You may have an image of freedom, and it's associated with perhaps not having to work, or being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, or financial freedom, or whatever it is. You might have an image of it, and you may even have a spiritual picture of it. Freedom, it's a sequence of good feelings, or it's the ability to be in nature and live organically with the earth, or it's the ability to be in meditation and have no thoughts. But really, none of that is freedom. Freedom is formless. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have a shape. It doesn't have a size. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a picture. That's why it's free. You see? Anything that has a shape, a size, a form, a dimension, a picture, a word, attributes, cannot be totally free. Now, a thing that has a quality, a shape, a size, a form, a name, an image, etc., might be relative to another object or appearance that has a shape, a size, a dimension, a form, a thing, a name, etc. More free than that thing. But that's just freedom relative to something else. It's like exchanging a larger prison for a smaller prison cell. You're still bound by certain limitations. The deeper you go into these practices, into true meditation as I've laid it out in the second session, which I again recommend you re-watch at some point. And if you start to practice this, and my friends, I know we don't want to hear this, but we need to practice. Some measure of discipline is required to get to the true benefits, for most people anyway. It's not an absolute law, but it is a probability. In truth, yes, what we are is already that freedom, you see. But if you just parrot that, like a parrot would mimic a human sentence with no meaning attached to it, with no experience attached to it, just parroting the sentence, I'm already free. I'm not saying you cannot use it as a mantra, because you can, and it can be helpful, marginally, to some degree. But what you want, I'm assuming, but what I want for you, what I would want for you if I were you, and I am you, is this what I am. I want for you what I am, which is what you are, and it is free. And meditation gets you there. True meditation, practice, the ability to penetrate through the illusions of the mind into the wide open sky of freedom itself, formless, pure, pristine. Whatever that is, whatever name you want to give to freedom, to bliss, your essence, I would like for you to like that for yourself, to want that for yourself. Of course, that's up to you. You don't have to want that. But if you do want it, and it's not immediately directly experienced, then parroting words like, I'm already free, may be helpful. But I want you to understand that direct experience is what I am promoting it, is what I am once again advertising for you on behalf of yourself. Direct experience is where it is at. And so the concepts that we're laying out here are just to set up the framework so that your mind can be laid to rest or put at ease, if you will, so that it doesn't have to distract itself so much with seeking for an intellectual framework before it is able to confidently apply its attention to the direct practice of the recognition of what's always already free. The experiential, instinctive, intuitive, direct recognition of what's always already free and always already here, and always already hearing my voice, and always already knowing this moment. The knower always knows whatever you know. You are that knower. Now know the knower. So again, an advertisement, a promotion to take this to direct experience levels, so to speak. Don't keep it just intellectually. All right now. In a previous session, I've said to let go of your descriptions of appearances. Again, what's an appearance? An appearance is anything that's noticeable, basically. And you could also say appearances are anything that's not noticed, but that still have some measure of appearing, or some level of your consciousness, be it sub or unconscious, is in some way, shape, or form aware of it. Basically, anything that is experienced is an appearance. And not in this session, but maybe another session, we'll go deeper into how we cannot really say that there is a world apart from perception. So you could say that everything, what is an experience, is an appearance. It's appearing. In what? In a container. in the essence, in the basis, which is kind of like space, formless, doesn't have a form of its own, but it enables all the objects or all the appearances and all the thoughts to arise. Now, what happens when we give meaning to an appearance? When we describe an appearance, when we give it a description, a name, a label, a definition, is now it becoming a thing in our experience. The state of our experience changes to collapse around this described phenomenon, this appearance that we've placed our attention upon, and we've described it. We've given it some measure of meaning. We've given it some significance. As a result, this naturally free state of consciousness will wrap itself around, because it doesn't have a form of its own. So kind of like water molding itself to the shape that we put it in. Whether it's a cup or a teapot, the water takes on that shape. And then you could say the water becomes an object. It takes on a shape. It takes on the shape of whatever it is poured into. Similarly, this naturally free, wide open, ultimately eternal and infinite consciousness, when we pour it into a description of something that we perceive with the senses or with the mind, then all of this vast freedom, all of this bliss is now condensing itself to the shape and the form of that description, that definition, that meaning. And now to us, in our sort of deluded state, in our ignorant state, meaning our state of consciousness, ignorant of the nature of the knower, ignorant of the all-pervasive, space-like nature, sky-like nature of awareness, unaware of this beingness, unaware of this God that is us, this Godness, this indescribable essence of allness, of isness, loved light bliss, now takes on, assumes the form of whatever we're thinking about. And so in our ignorant state, the state of consciousness, ignorant of its own nature, its true nature, then takes on that shape, and it's diluted by the shape, by the object. And so we gain subject-object experience of ourselves. But this is the limitation. This is the prison. Doesn't have to be. I can experience objects without being limited to them, without being deluded by them. I can experience phenomena without being deluded by them, without losing my sense of freedom, my sense of intrinsic awareness, my sense of ongoing, eternal, changeless existence, my sense of freedom. But typically in the diluted state, we are not aware. We don't maintain a natural sense of our natural sense. And so, what's extremely helpful on making this a more natural experience for yourself is to give up as much as you can. Meaning, give up as much as you can, giving meaning to things. And I want to just explore how afraid we are of this, and why we're afraid of this. Because our whole world, our whole sense of identity, is based on meaning. And so the only reason I can even be considered controversial in, let's say, I make an expression or a statement, and people would say that's a controversial statement. The only reason someone can say that is because of their attachment to meaning. We give meaning to certain things, and then our collective kind of forms a consensus agreement on what certain things mean, and how you should feel if this happens, and what you should do if that happens, and how you should think when that happens, and how sad you should be when this happens, and how happy you should be when that happens, and how much you should complain when this happens, and how much you should be grateful when that happens. So we developed this sort of collective field of agreements within consciousness, this collective contract, if you will, of what things mean. And now we're fooled. We're utterly deluded. We're blinded from our true selves. We are obscuring the nature of freedom because we're so fixated on what something means, and to demonstrate the distracting power of meaning. When it's not inherently there, we can use a very simple example. I used to use this example a lot. It's a bit of a silly example, but it gets the point across. I used to use this a lot in my first few years of teaching. Right now, you're more distracted by what I'm saying. You're more focused on what I'm saying. Then you are focused on the doorknob that is present in whatever room you're in, or take any object in a room that you haven't noticed until now. Now, me speaking, objectively is just as present in the room you're in as the carpet, or the plant in the corner, or the doorknob. Why is my talk drawing more of your attention than the doorknob? Why is there no attention drawn towards the doorknob? Why is the doorknob not distracting you at all? and I am distracting. Or you could replace me with perhaps the sensation in your body, or the thoughts in your mind, the thoughts that you have about the session. Equally present to the thoughts you have about this session, it's the doorknob in your room or the carpet. But the doorknob does not pose a distraction. It does not call out for your attention, seemingly. It seems or appears to be neutral. And anything that's neutral does not distract consciousness. Neutral doesn't really exist, or you could say everything is inherently neutral. It's another way of saying it, but neutrality only exists in relationship to positive and negative, or meaning and no meaning. But really, it's more accurate to see through the illusion of meaning, to understand that meaning is given by us. It's optional. I just want you to realize how optional meaning is and why you don't have to be afraid of this. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First, let's continue to examine the nature of meaning or significance. There's no meaning in your mind, there's no description in your mind that the doorknob means anything to you. It's just what it is. It's a functional object. You know how it works, but it doesn't pose a threat to your existence. It doesn't jump off of the door and start hitting you in the face. It doesn't argue with you when you want to do what you want to do. It doesn't hold you back from going outside. The only way you would notice the doorknob or give it meaning, or it would distract you, is if it doesn't work. Which you've given meaning in the form of, well, if this doorknob doesn't work, I can't get out of my room, which means I'm in some way, shape, or form affected. And you will see, as you investigate, if you're brave enough to investigate, all the meaning you've given to things, or you've assumed that things have that meaning, that they inherently carry that meaning, when in truth they don't, because nothing does. And again, don't worry, I'll get to the point why this is not scary. If you continue to investigate what you've given meaning, you will see that the things that you've given the most amount of meaning and significance are the things that you believe, that you've given more meaning, that you believe are most important to your life, or that could generate the most harmful consequences, or pose the most challenging challenges, or inhibit your freedom to move around this world the most. Say prison, we give meaning to going to prison. Just an example because it would inhibit our everyday physical freedom to move around this world, but the doorknob has no meaning to us. And in fact, neither does the prison nor the soccer ball that is about to hit your face, because someone from across the field kicked a soccer ball. Then it's going in the wrong direction and it's approaching your face. You're giving that meaning. And so it is drawing your attention, and sometimes for good reason. A lot of times one could argue for good reason, so that you can dodge the ball and avoid being physically harmed or hurt or potentially killed by objects that are flying around this world, right? But one of the illusions is that we need to give things meaning, order to be able to navigate with these appearances or objects. In other words, we believe that we have to give meaning to the train passing us by or being at a close distance, or the soccer ball is about to hit our face. And because we give it that meaning, and we believe we need to give it that meaning, we continue to perpetuate this bubble of fear of all kinds of things. These are just simple examples, but the examples go so far. They have to do with relationships and family and livelihood and finances and all kinds of consequences that we project. And so more and more, we build a prison of meaning around ourselves, which greatly, from an energetic standpoint, inhibit our energetic freedom, the freedom and the balance and the health of our energy system, if you will. Because we generate all these blockages using the mind, using the mental energy. But when we hear this, we typically fear that we cannot skillfully or intelligently operate without meaning, and nothing is further from the truth. And this is why people are afraid of the message that life is inherently meaningless, meaning that there's no object in existence that carries its own meaning. This table doesn't carry the meaning of being a table and supporting other objects. That's the meaning we've attributed to it. That's the meaning I believe it has. But the table doesn't know that meaning, doesn't itself speak its mind and say, "This is what I'm here for. This is my value. This is my meaning. This is my significance." It's completely optional. It's completely given to that prop, to that appearance by us. And as soon as I label the table a table, and as soon as I give it the meaning and the significance that it has, I am already seeing it as an object separate from myself. I'm now experiencing it as an object that threatens this object, which I have given meaning to as the physical body, as another separate object that defines me. That has a lot of meaning, but one does not have to give things strong significance, which typically has a contracting energetic momentum around it, or builds sort of a prison around these concepts that segregates and separates our experience of ourselves, and generates fear and anxiety and stress, and this sort of dense feeling of object-subject focus on a day-to-day basis. And we then don't allow ourselves to enjoy the naturally free state of this awareness that's here, of God, of Creator, but without giving anything meaning. And this is a process, so for most people this will be hypothetical. But as you sort of go about your daily life and you start to investigate, well, does this situation actually have the meaning that I'm giving it? You will notice an instantaneous sense of freedom. When you realize that actually this whole contracting feeling, this whole fearful feeling that I was having and producing about the situation, it doesn't actually have that meaning in and of itself. It doesn't open its own mouth. Nothing in the universe says, "This is what I mean." In fact, the entire universe is dead quiet, meaning free of meaning. We give it meaning. You have to see this at some point because it's greatly helpful for resting in your natural state, recognizing the freedom of everything, recognizing the perfection that constitutes every appearance, and being able to contact that intelligence, being able to contact that unconditional love, being able to be in bliss, true bliss. Not a sort of avoidant bliss, but a true bliss, because you're recognizing the true freedom, the true nature of everything that appears in his experience. If this goes over your head a little bit, don't worry. Re-listen to it at some point, and especially the first 2 sessions again. They are more introductory. I will do my best to keep it as simple and accessible, but also I will give glimpses of some of the more advanced stages. Or once you've practiced a little bit more, then what can you kind of expect? And one thing that you can expect is that you begin to realize optional and malleable meaning is. You can give meaning to anything according to however you want to, according to your own creativity, according to your own preference, according to your own desire or guidance, and the very shape and experience of that thing will change. Or you can give it no meaning, and then the thing will not appear or be experienced as separate from you. You need to give meaning to things in order for consciousness to project the experience of separation. Again, this is a bit of an advanced statement, and you're not going to know for sure what I mean until you've practiced more. So, again, practice more, and you will enable this freedom within yourself. And you will really be able to see through the delusions and the bubbles that we create around ourselves and around objects and around other people. The bubble of the mind that we live in, that we think is actually objectively real. We think we're viewing reality as it actually is, but we're not. And kind of like Morpheus said, I only promise the truth. Nothing more, nothing less. And so you will start to see through some of these illusions. And there might be certain things that scare you about that because you've become so dependent on meaning and significance given to other things, that it's like you're always navigating a minefield. It's like your day-to-day life, even though your consciousness is like the sky. It's wide open. It's free. It's like space. It's like space, purely filled with a love-filled light, like the sun is just radiating, like 1,000 suns are radiating through the space. That's the natural condition of pure consciousness, of your actual self. But you fill it up with content. You think about things. You give things meaning. And you create this minefield of apparent objects that you've given significance, which you now feel like you, using the body and your intellect, have to navigate through and stress about all the time and be on edge about. But imagine a life where you didn't have that mind field awareness. Imagine a life where this freedom is naturally present to you, and it informs you with an intelligence. It informs you with a flow state. It informs your mind and your body as to what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Can you imagine that? Where you don't have to overthink things, where you don't have to prepare for everything, where there is a natural intelligence that already sees things coming, that already can see into the future, so to speak, that already is perfectly where it needs to be. At any given moment, and it guides you. It directs you. It informs your body, your speech, your thought, your mind, and your interactions with others. And this intelligence is completely sane. It's completely sensible. In fact, it's much more sane and sensible than most human beings who pride themselves in knowing what things mean. It's much more sensible, much more compassionate. And this is the intrinsic, natural state of your real mind, your real consciousness that's available to you now. Through these practices, you can actualize these experiences for yourself. You can step into a state that's commensurate with God consciousness, that is commensurate with true freedom, with true intelligence, and therefore also true creativity and adaptability and flexibility and freedom and intelligence. Skillful means. They're all available already in this field that you are, this knower. The knower itself needs to be tapped into, needs to be plugged into in order to activate those qualities that you seek in life. Normally, by learning this skill and learning that skill and doing this and doing that, you can embody. You can become the fastest learner. By knowing the knower, you become much more intelligent about everything in your life, and the minefield starts to disappear. You no longer experience life as a minefield. You just kind of naturally radiate and shine like the sun, like on a carefree day. But all the time, even when there's challenges and when there's puzzles happening that you apparently need to use your body and mind to solve, if you want to get to some kind of outcome or if you want to be of service to others. And that's all available to you. That intelligence and the intellectual capacity increases even. I'm much smarter today than I used to be. I guess you could argue that goes for most people as they grow up, but not really, not necessarily. But I'm significantly more intelligent now, also at a brain level, than I used to be even 5 years ago. So this natural resource of infinite intelligence, when tapped into directly experientially, and it's beyond the thinking mind, it will enhance everything. It will align every component of you, your body, your mind, your speech, your intuition, and it will align it to that deeper intelligence, which is one with everything at its core, in the heart of it. So it's one with everything. Because it's one with everything, it knows everything all the time. Because it knows everything all the time, it can now inform the individual consciousness and the individual body-mind with a flow state that is acting all the time in alignment with the knowledge of all that is. So now the expression that's unique to your body-mind incarnation can align itself with that true blueprintal intelligence. But if you continue to be attached to meaning and significance, this means this. This means that if you continue to be so certain about your world, you just simply won't loosen up enough to relax into this intelligence and allow some of that intelligence to inform your body and your mind, because you're willing yourself to be the one who does it all, and the one who thinks it all, and the one who takes pride for it. But what if you could relax into this motherboard-like field of intelligence and then allow that field to inform you, be informed? It's like watching the news, except you're watching God. And God is significantly more intelligent than your news anchors. Significantly. So instead of being informed by other people, instead of being informed by your own mind, which is nothing but the product of a lot of other people over the course of your life, how many of your thoughts are really yours? Why not be informed by source intelligence? By that consciousness which is plugged into the unity awareness, the unity beingness, the unity essence. All things, that therefore knows the proper balance of all things, that can therefore inform your body, your mind, your speech, your actions. It can inform it. Again, just like when you're reading the newspaper, you're being informed with information. Information is granted to you, is given to you, you're influenced. Be careful what you place your attention on, because it will inform you. You will take on that shape because essentially you're formless, like water. If you're informed by the news, you will take on that shape. If you're informed by God, you will take on that shape, that form. You're completely malleable. You're moldable. So what are you placing your attention on? That is what not only grows, but that's what you become. That's what you become a representative of. So why not tune into the purest intelligence that you can tune into? Again, these practices, when practiced, will open the floodgates of direct experience into this intelligence, which I cannot begin to describe to you, but it's completely available to you. I'm just advertising it here. I'm just an advertisement. My body and mind cannot give it to you, so to speak. I can only advertise it on your own behalf, on behalf of God, on behalf of that source intelligence that right now hears my voice within you. I'm an advertisement. I'm promoting something here. I'm promoting your liberation and your intelligence, your freedom from this cage of human consciousness, this cage of human definitions, descriptions, meaning, and significance. Do not be afraid to let go of giving things significance. It's not the same as nihilism. This is a deliberate, conscious act of letting go of optional meaning by seeing that it is optional. Seeing that nothing has inherent meaning. We give it meaning. This is a very meaningful realization. This is a very beautiful realization, because now two things happen. One, you're free from the belief that what you thought was a prison actually is a prison. It's not. It was just your definition. This thing is that thing, which it's not. It's just your definition. You're separate from life, which it's not. It's just your definition. It's just your description. It's just the way you've given it meaning. Therefore, it appears to be that way. Therefore, you feel like it exists in that way. But your perception is all the time manufactured by your meanings and definitions and what you give significance to, and in what way you give it significance. What significance does a thing have? Nothing has inherently more significance than anything else. But when you give it significance, including this or that spiritual aspect of the journey, etc., you get distracted. You generate object focus, and you get distracted from this pure awareness that's available to you, that can continue to expand in you, to relax in you, that can continue to open up to higher and higher degrees of this sunlight, this bliss, this love light that is innately, intrinsically you, available to you. It's intrinsic. Awareness is intrinsic, timeless purity is right here, right now, available to you. The less meaning you give to things, the more of your bandwidth, the more of your processing power, the more of your consciousness becomes available to recognize that natural motherboard condition of unfathomable intelligence and dance and flow and perfection and love. In that state, being of service to others is automatic, and you're fulfilled. Fulfillment is automatic. Happiness is automatic. It comes with the package of knowing yourself. Meaning is distracting. You don't need to give things meaning to understand them. In fact, the less meaning you give to something, the less deluded you are by your description of things. The more you can see all the dimensions of a thing, the more you can look at it from all angles and come to some kind of a sensible, objective, intelligent, flow-based decision that's in balance with everything, rather than coming from bias, conditioning, and what you have learned and what other people have told you about something, which is a very divisive way. It's a very unintelligent way. Intelligent way to operate, and yet we pride ourselves and we call that intelligence. Whoever has the best ability to describe things is the most intelligent. The one who knows what meaning things have is the most intelligent, praised as the smartest person. One could argue it's the opposite. They're the most deluded. They're the most sucked into a framework of thought, and they've created a bubble which they believe equals reality, which it absolutely does not. It only equals their distorted experience, their projected experience, their projection of the movie. True intelligence is wide open, bias-free, preference-free. Doesn't mean your preference for coffee or tea or peeing when you have to pee, versus not peeing when you have to pee disappears. There's still the sensible conventional world of preferences, but not preference in terms of a bias, like wanting to have a position on something. Your wide open, naturally intelligent, and naturally balanced actions flow from your unconditionally loving being without having to try it. Having to cultivate it, you see. The sort of more indirect spiritual paths talk about cultivation of certain spiritual virtues or attributes. This is not that. Yes, it's great to practice compassion. By all means, practice compassion. But when you really are able to tap into the motherboard of all intelligence, within your own consciousness, knowing the knower directly, before any words are spoken, before any meaning is given to anything, and knowing that you know. If you're able to really tap into that, make it more and more solid, more and more experiential, this motherboard, this holy grail of all intelligence, will begin to inform every aspect of you. It will begin to transform every aspect of you. It will begin to unbias. You'll become less and less biased. You'll become more and more a natural leader. You'll have a balanced view of things. You'll have a compassionate understanding of things. And it does this all by itself. There's no ego involved, while there is ego responding to it. But the process of enlightening yourself, or becoming an unconditionally loving being, is not performed by the ego. It's not an act of cultivating something. It's naturally intrinsically available. It's just tapped into. It's just accessed. It's just prioritized. It's just trusted in. It's just relied upon. I hope you still follow me. If not, you can rewatch. So you see, meaning distorts. Meaning creates bias and separation and division. I do not need to give something significance in order to know how to deal with it in the conventional way of things. You are not sacrificing being a sensible person. Will you suddenly jump in front of a train just because you no longer give it the significance that you've given it before? No. Do you need just as much of an adrenaline fear response to certain situations and lock up in fear in order to deal with it? No. You can stay wide open, intelligently clear, see things from all dimensions because you're not locked down. You're not sucked into a bubble of definitions and meaning and significance and fear. You're wide open, and this wide openness begins to inform you, and it's like slow motion mode activates when you need it. Naturally, and without any fear, there's a navigating of whatever the situation is. Without any bias or meaning needing to be given to any of the appearances that flow through your screen, through your consciousness. It's just a natural intelligence. Naturally, hyper-skillful. Abilities, means. Natural intelligence. You see, everything lives this way. Nature lives this way. It's a good example. Our capacity for self-realization is much greater than that of a tree, but that of a tree is not interfered by significance. A tree doesn't give meaning to anything, and so everything it does is informed by this motherboard of balance. That's why nature is in a natural state of balance all the time. Except for human beings, because we believe in our egoic little definitions of, this is important, and if you dare say that's not important, then you're not a caring person. That whole fear, that whole minefield of taboos and collective agreements of meaning and significance, it pales in comparison with the intelligence, godly being that you really are, and that you can allow to come through you. All of you, no matter if this is the first time you hear this, you can be this journey of tapping into your natural state. And you can become more than just a human being in the way that we've given meaning to human beings. You're so much more than this lump of flesh. And you will be able to know that if you let go of your skepticism, if you let go of your realism, if you let go of your heavy definitions of what things mean, which is all full of shit, and it's all arrogance, and it's all ignorance. Science proves this over and over again. The one thing science actually does prove is that science is completely false all the time. It's always up. It's always updated. It's always upgraded. It always changes its previous assumptions. So it's a work in progress. But yet we cling to these things like they're absolutely real. And we forget to notice our own hubris, our own arrogance. With that, our own insistence that we know what is right when we know so little with the conceptual mind. We know so little, and we understand, think so far out of context, so far out of perspective of the truth of creation and reality, that it just becomes mind-boggling to one who is more and more acquainted with the natural state of intelligence, more and more naturally informed and enlightened and awakened from within through their practice of resting. In the North, It's that simple, master key right there. Know the knower. Turn your attention upon attention itself, upon that knowledge I exist, I am, and I'm conscious. Know that over and over and over again. And you'll notice very quickly, in a matter of weeks, if not minutes for some, you'll begin to notice a clarity, a brightness, and intelligence begins to inform you in a way you've never quite experienced before. And this is when you truly let go of realism. This is when you truly doesn't mean you're not realistic and sensible in the conventional world. You are. If a soccer ball is coming your way, you dodge if you see it. If there's a train coming your way, you dodge. You lose no capacity for sensibility, for reasonability, for logic. In fact, you become smarter. But what you notice is your realism, your denseness, your arrogance of thinking that you know that because you've given something a name, that that's actually what that thing is. And because you think it means this or that or this or that, and that it should be regarded to as this or that, and that it's more significant than that or that or that or that. Just because you think that doesn't make it true. Pop your bubble of arrogance. Arrogance consists of significance. A truly balanced, clear, enlightened being is free of bias. Now, this is a far-fetched goal, perhaps, but with practice that is what naturally happens. Free of giving things significance, and yet the appreciation and the recognition of the infinite magic of life is automatic. You don't need to give something meaning to appreciate its existence and its isness. In fact, again, there's this saying, as soon as you teach a child that a bird is a bird, it stops seeing the bird. It never sees the bird again. It now only sees the name bird. We do this all the time. We've built so many layers of significance and meaning on top of each other that we're so afraid to even dissolve 10% of it. We're so scared of freedom. We really think we need these crutches. We need these labels, these firm definitions and taboos in order to operate, in order to be smart, in order to be sensible, in order to be loving. You cannot be truly loving if you give something significance, because it's not unconditional. If I make something more significant and more meaningful, I love less instantly. If I give my wife, I don't have a wife at the moment, but if I were to have a wife and I gave my wife more significance than something else in our society, that's regarded to as being a really, really, really good person. And of course, we want to be loved by other people, so we aspire to being a really, really, really good person. But it blinds me. I can no longer love my wife when I give her significance. Now it becomes about me. I cannot see her with this equal appreciation of her as it is, as she is, as life is manifesting in that way. I only see what I think of her. Every time you give someone more meaning than something else, or even if you give them meaning, period, you stop loving them. Or you diminish your ability to be transparent to the natural state of love, which is ever present automatically in the true self, which is what you are right now. If you don't cover it up, if you don't cloud it with meaning and definitions and descriptions and significance, if you don't lower your state of consciousness to one of significant things and objects, you stay wide open, bright, vivid. Like a newly born little bunny. No definitions, no labels. Just bright-eyed, sweet, cute, innocent, wide-open consciousness. Vibrant, awake. Don't see through filters. Instead, see through your filters. Don't look at the world through your filters. Look through your filters. Don't give things meaning. Look through the meaning. And then you'll begin to sense. Even over distance, you'll begin to develop a very intimate, energetic feeling. Feeling physical, tactile connection with things that normal people or mainstream consciousness would say is outside of you. It's actually not there. There's no proof that I end at my skin. There's no proof that I'm even inside of the skin. I have to make that definition, just because I have nervous system in this thing and therefore I feel this. Doesn't mean I'm not what's outside of it. That's an assumption. And as your consciousness becomes more aware of the consciousness, again, like I suggested or hinted at in the last session, over time, for most people very gradually, at a pace they're comfortable with, the universe turns itself inside out. Instead of being a person inside of the world, you are now experiencing the world as moving through consciousness, through a universal principle of your beingness, your essential basis. You become identified with the basis, which is like the space of the whole universe, if you will, comparatively. Still an analogy, but it kind of works. So now it's like the whole universe is moving through you. All perception is moving through you. You're not moving through a world of things. The world of things are perceptions that are moving through you. The whole universe turns itself inside out. And now, you can touch every aspect of the universe with your consciousness because it exists inside your consciousness. And so naturally, compassion and empathy and love and understanding daunt on you. They become natural parts of what you are, because there already are natural parts of what they are, which are. But you're just looking at life through so many filters, and you defend these filters to the death, because you're so afraid of what you'll find if you just let go of all your control. You think you'll turn into some kind of a barbarian that loses all sensibility. The farthest is true. That's farthest from the true. In fact, you're much closer to a barbarian as we speak right now. Product of civilization, barbaric civilization. Or at least partially. That's not you. Cleanse yourself. Purify yourself. Reawaken to the truth. See through your filters. Take up the courage to rely on this ever-present motherboard field of primordial intelligence, ever available to you, timeless like space itself. Connect to it. Become familiar with it. Take 2 to 5 seconds over and over again to drop back into this spacious freedom, this recognition of pure clarity, pure consciousness of I am. Over and over again. That's the trick. Over and over again. And the world will begin to turn inside out. This intelligence will begin to inform your body, mind, speech, and you will be in flow state more and more, and you will experience unconditional love more and more and more. You'll be transformed from the inside out by an intelligence that you could never try to even approach by egoistically mimicking it or developing certain virtues at a time. This is all virtues developed simultaneously at the highest rate that you can sort of follow along with.